Hello, and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. This one's episode 17. I am one of the hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
Pretty well. I'm tired. I've been getting up early because school has started again.
That's right. We both have started school.
But the weekend is not far off, and we'll be able to sleep and maybe catch up on more of this Gamescom stuff, which is gonna be the main topic this week. And so we should probably just dive right in.
Gamescom 2018. It's sort of like, I've heard it described as E3 for Europe, but I feel like not as many reveals happen.
Yeah, it's in between like two different like big shows, so I feel like it gets overlooked a little bit.
What else? What's so E3 and then
what's the one that's after this one? There's one that comes up after this.
Oh, Tokyo Game Show?
Maybe that's what it is. I can't remember which one it is, but I know there's another one that's fairly big that's like right around the corner after this.
I feel like the thing I'm most excited for is the Game Awards, which isn't until November or December, because Jeff Keighley is like really good about having crazy reveals all throughout that show.
Yeah.
Like the Breath of the Wild DLC, that was, I think the Game Awards was when they were just like, guess what? You can have a motorcycle now in Breath of the Wild, and it's available right now. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh my god.
That is kind of turning more and more into like another E3, like a winter E3 or whatever. But
which is great.
Yeah, it is great. I was listening fairly recently to the Giant Bomb cast, and they were talking about how they don't even go to Gamescom anymore because it's like, it almost doesn't make sense for them to do it just because there's like big shows happening like both before and after that. So they just don't go to it anymore.
And it doesn't seem like there's a ton of, there's one really big piece of news, but it doesn't seem like a lot of stuff gets revealed. It's sort of just like showcasing like, hey, remember E3? This is the stuff we had at E3. The demos are slightly different and like a few more things have playable demos.
Yeah, basically you're just seeing more extended like gameplay of stuff that you've already seen. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like bigger announcements and like new stuff will come later. But nevertheless, let's jump into the stuff that stood out to us. And I want you to tell me about Nvidia's new graphics cards.
It's been rumored for a long time, Zach. It's been in the works, but Nvidia unveiled their new cards, their 2070 and their 2080s with RTX technology. You know what that is?
I don't.
Ray tracing is the big buzzword this year.
What is it?
Okay, I tried to do a little bit of research this so I could describe it to you, but basically what I think it is currently the way games are rendered is a process called rasterization, where basically lines are shot out from the camera or like the viewpoint of the character, and it's all just like triangles, and it's very it's gotten very efficient. Like they know that if any sort of geometry is not in the field of view of the camera, they have to ignore it, or like if some part of geometry is behind another part of geometry, they can ignore it. So that's how it happens right now. But that's not how human eyes work. Human eyes work by light being emitted from a source, and then that light sort of like bouncing around off of things, and then we see the light sort of bouncing off of objects. And that's sort of what ray tracing is, I think, it's mostly lighting, I want to say. Like, the end result of it is that light is being emitted from objects in a different way, and it's computationally very taxing, but these cards have ray tracing like modules on them that are dedicated to ray tracing, and the end result of that is like way more photorealistic graphics. Like, people are saying this is the biggest leap in graphics this decade, and people in film have been using it for a while, but they have time to render stuff. Like, stuff takes time to render, and you have that time, but video games, they'll have to render at like 60 frames a second, and so that can be a little difficult. So what I have heard is that these cards are great. They're not going to make they're not going to make current games look better. I mean, they are, but this ray tracing is only going to be implemented somewhat initially. Like, probably it'll make reflections and shadows in games higher fidelity, but there's not going to be a game that's like 100% ray tracing graphics for a while. It's just going to be slightly implemented.
I was going to ask about that. I was like, so how much further out do we need to wait for like the games to really take advantage of this?
I'm not sure about that. I saw people on Twitter speculating. Somebody asked a developer or somebody like, hey, this ray tracing technology is like the new hotness. Is this going to be like in the new console generation? And that person who is in the know was like, probably not this generation, but generation after is going to be all about ray tracing. So,
and
it's
so
sort of a
the
new
generation after. So does he mean the one that's upcoming, suspected like 2020, 2021?
No.
So the one after that.
PlayStation 6, basically, unless something else changes. Ray tracing is, because the thing about rasterization, the current method of like rendering stuff in games is that it's gotten very efficient and it's built into all the workflows. And so to drastically change it, basically change engines around, like, I don't think it's just a plugin where like you can just click something in Unity and be like, oh, now I'm doing ray tracing.
I wonder what that'll mean for backwards compatibility then.
Also a super good question. Yeah, I mean, the fidelity it seems to give you is like a crazy leap. I don't know, we can maybe link it in the show notes, but there was a real-time demo. There's like a Star Wars demo. Did you see that ray tracing demo? Like back when they were first announcing ray tracing, like, I don't even, like GDC or something?
No, but I want to see it.
Actually, let me see if I can find it really quick. Hold on. So we can put it in the show notes. YouTube.
I was going to say, it's all sounds fairly complicated to me, but Ars Technica put together some info that's way more detailed than we can like get into, and we'll link that in the show notes for sure.
Here, really quickly, I want you to just watch this, and I want your reactions. Because the main thing it allows for is, like, very realistic shadows and, why did I write Star Ray? It should be Star Wars.
Well, you're all about ray tracing, so
true.
Star Ray Tracing Wars.
Take a look at that. Because it is real-time, so this is, like, it's not, like, baked-in stuff. But it looks cinema quality because the reflections and lighting is so good.
Yeah, this does look really good.
Like everything, they had to use Phasma because she's like all reflections. Like her character is being a reflection. It's just like crazy. The lighting looks so good. And this is like, they could pause, like this is a playable demo, I think. Not playable, but they can like, it's not pre-baked or like it's running in real time.
So what you're telling me is like lighting and reflections and all of that are going to get like a huge leap forward.
Exactly. And like I have heard speculation that in the coming months / year and a half, we might see like indies, like small independent projects that are sort of like proof of concept like fully ray traced games. And those are going to look like photorealistic crazy, but they're just going to be simplistic things, probably like toys or just like, I guess I'm thinking about, there's another ray tracing demo of these just like tiny little robots running around. So who's to say? But yeah, ray tracing you're going to hear a lot about in the next 2 or 3 years, and it's going to slowly get implemented. And who knows, maybe there will be some sort of technology implemented in the PS5 and whatever they're going to call the Xbox, but for now it's just something that's interesting and it's hot out the presses. And if you want to spend like $1,200,
yeah, I was going to say, did they put a price tag on this? Because I'm guessing it's way up there.
It's not cheap, I gotta say. People are saying you should hang out and not buy these for a while.
Well, especially since games aren't really utilizing this technology quite yet. So yeah, like you were saying, when PlayStation 6 drops, that's when it'll be like time to go after these. But anyway, next up, I want you to also tell me about Devil May Cry 5.
Zach, have you ever played a Devil May Cry game?
I have not.
We've talked about this before, but it's similar. Bayonetta is heavily influenced by Devil May Cry. It's sort of like a, what's a good word for it? On the Game Informer podcast, they described it as a stylish action game, kind of. But it's basically like a game we're going to talk about later, like Darksiders, just like third-person hack and slash where you're upgrading your character. A thing, or like God of War 2, or like the initial God of War games even. Like, basically a thing where you're a third person, you're running around, there's like really intense action gameplay. And Devil May Cry is known for just like, you have guns, and then you have a sword, and you're kind of running around, and I'm not 100% on the lore of everything, but I really enjoyed like Bayonetta, and I've played a majority, I think, of the Devil May Cry games, because it's just fun. You just like, you run around and you're collecting souls, I think, basically.
Oh, like Dark Souls.
Similar to Dark Souls in some ways, but not really. And this one, there are 3 playable characters. You play as, I think Nero is the guy they're showing, and then Dante is like the main character of Devil May Cry, and then a secret third character that they're not talking about right now. But the main reason I wanted to talk about this, one, it looks great, and it's going to be super fun, and I'll play it, and everyone should check it out. But if you go to this trailer that I posted, this is the first time they're showing Dante as a playable character. And so if you skip to about, I want to say 2 minutes and 25 seconds, it seems like he is going to have a very interesting playstyle, because it seems as though he is constantly on a motorcycle, but he can also rip the motorcycle in half and use it as 2 giant swords.
Yeah, this looks crazy. By chance, is this, when we were talking about new Smash Brothers characters and we wanted classic ones, and I said Excite Bike, because it would be crazy to have a character who was always on a bike, and he was basically doing tricks, and that's how he dealt damage. Were they listening and they like quickly threw something together? Is that what happened?
They hacked us, Zach.
We've been hacked.
But this looks super fun. I should let you borrow. I have the like Bayonetta 1 and 2 edition for Switch. And if you've never played like a hack and slash, I find it just to be really fun, because you're constantly, it's like those first God of War games where like you have your Blades of Chaos, but then you're constantly unlocking crazy secondary weapons, and also just like different modes of traversal. In a lot of ways, it's a little bit like, sort of like Zelda, early Zelda games, where like you would get to a place in a dungeon and be like, oh, you can't go there yet. But then all of a sudden you have these gloves later on, you go back and you can open up this new area. Sort of just, it's like I'm not sure what the exact terminology is, like a Zelda-like or something like that, but more hack and slashy, like with really extreme, over-the-top scenes in combat.
Yeah, I need to come up with... So there's like Metroidvania that's smashed together. What if there was like a Zelda of War?
Ooh, that's actually perfect for what we're going to talk about later.
Okay. So we've created a new thing. Like
Zelda of War. That's genius. Yeah.
The genre mashup that everybody has been looking for. I have not played any of the Devil May Cry games, but I mean, the way you describe them sound interesting, and the trailers do look like really crazy.
Yeah. And
it does just kind of seem like a little bit like a crazy anime type of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would check it out, but yeah, I haven't played them before.
Oh, March 8th, 2019.
Hey, that's my birthday.
Oh my God, Zach, it's coming out on your birthday.
Is this a present for me?
It could be.
Maybe it is. So, moving on. Another big name game is coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Lay it on me, Zach.
It's kind of random, but Saints Row the Third is coming to the Switch. Did you play Saints Row the Third?
The only Saints Row game I've ever played is the fourth one. The fourth one is the one where you're in the Matrix, right?
I mean, I've not played any of the Saints Row games.
The fourth one starts and you are the president of America, and then maybe of the world actually, and then aliens attack and you escape, and you like they have trapped civilization in like a matrix, and so you get in, you like hack into that matrix. I think what it was is it was the same map from Saints Row the Third, but it was in the matrix. So like every once in a while you would walk up on someone and they'd have like crazy long arms or like no eyes because they'd be glitching out. It was very funny. And a crazy thing about those games is that Keith David plays himself in those, and he just like hangs out with you.
That is funny. No, my question was going to be, why not Saints Row 4? Like, why is the third one coming to the
Solid
Switch?
question. I'm not really sure. I have often heard that Saints Row 2 is like the best one. So I'm not sure what I like the reporting of this is so great because every gaming news outlet is basically like some form of Saints Row the Third is coming on Switch, I guess. Or like Saints Row the Third is for some reason coming out to Switch, or is that's great, I guess.
Because why not? But all right. Well, but so the publisher of this, Deep Silver, they also do like they did a Red Faction, right? The re-release of that. I want to say they're just like, we have all these properties that we've not done anything with. Let's start re-releasing things and see like kind of, you know, what the reception is for these, and maybe we'll start making new ones.
Wait, is Deep Silver affiliated with the THQ Nordic?
Yeah, I think or maybe they just bought different, like they bought the different properties from... Was it THQ that like closed down?
I don't remember.
Am I getting my facts wrong?
I'm not sure because this is, I think, is related maybe to Time Splitters. Did we talk about that last week?
I don't remember, but I do want them to bring back Time Splitters.
THQ now owns Time Splitters and like heavily speculates. Since they did I feel like you're right about them doing Red Faction stuff. Like everyone is super into them releasing the first 3 Time Splitters games as like a package, which would be so fun. And also maybe if that does well, they make another Time Splitters.
I played a ton of Time Splitters 2 on the GameCube back in the day.
I believe I only played Future Perfect, which is the third one.
So I didn't play that one. I wanted to because I was so into the second one, but I think by then like bigger series had come out and I had moved on. But I remember like the marketing for Time Splitters 2 was like the spiritual successor to GoldenEye, and so that's why I initially started playing it. But
it was, I mean, it was like, because like Perfect Dark came out after GoldenEye, and that was really great, but that was more like, oh, serious, like the Illuminati and like aliens. And the tone of Time Splitters was just like very charming. Like it was very zany. There were monkeys happening.
It was all over the place. Like
crazy guns.
Yeah, there were maps like from all over the world. It was kind of like, you know, before Overwatch, which gets credited for like, you know, having characters and locations all around the world. Like Time Splitters 2 was kind of already doing that, but yeah, like you could set up multiplayer matches offline, obviously, but like against bots. And so like this was kind of like before horde mode. Me and like a friend or my brother would like play, and we would like set up all these bots to come like attack us basically on these different maps. And you could even like create your own maps, which was kind of a fun thing to do. But
and you could play as a monkey.
Yeah, and that was the great thing. Like obviously Oddjob was the character to be in GoldenEye, but you could play as a monkey and you could dual wield weapons. Well, I guess you could do that in GoldenEye as well, but yeah, there were so many different crazy like wild characters that you could play as, or that you could like set up to come attack you. It was crazy.
Zach, you mentioned Overwatch, and that made me remember there's Overwatch news as well.
Oh, what is the news?
It's all about D.Va. They released a new animated short all about D.Va. I watched it and it was good. But also there's a new D.Va-centric map in Busan, which is like that one train movie. You're familiar with that train movie?
Yeah, Train to Busan.
That's getting a sequel apparently.
Was it not that one that was also getting like an American remake?
That would not surprise me.
They're
making a Snowpiercer TV show.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was. But I did watch that movie. I'm not super into zombie movies, anymore.
Yeah, I did not watch it because I assumed it would end very depressingly.
If I recall correctly, it kind of does.
Did it leave itself open for a sequel? Because I think that did get ordered for a sequel.
I mean, probably. It's been a while since I've seen it, but...
Anyway, Busan.
So new map. That's exciting. I did see that they released a new animated short for Diva, who is a character I've played a lot this year when I got... So I think we talked about this at one point. I bought Overwatch on PC and started playing on PC. And I started playing characters that I just never played before on PS4. And Diva was one of them. And I was like, this character is actually a lot of fun. I just was afraid to play the character before because I didn't understand like how it worked. And I was super bad at it. But it's a very fun character. And I need to actually sit down and watch the animated short. But exciting. New maps. New maps are always exciting. Blizzard is so good at just like keeping their games going with like fresh content. Like,
yeah.
Didn't World of Warcraft also get an update or some like DLC or something? Because I feel like everybody's been playing and talking about World of Warcraft recently.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, we're not really expert. I've never played it, and I don't think you have either, so we don't really... I didn't write anything about it. But yeah, it did have I think it's been well received, this new DLC. I don't even remember what it's called, but...
I mean, the point is that game is ridiculously old by like today's gaming standards, where most games don't make it, like, aren't supported for longer than like a couple of years. So I don't know. I like Blizzard's approach to games and franchises. So
I agree.
That's why I want to support more Overwatch. I think there's also a free weekend coming up. If it's not happening this weekend, I should actually look up that date. Yeah, this weekend.
Oh, man.
Apparently starting now.
Oh, my God.
So as of this recording, you can go ahead and start playing Overwatch. One of these days, I'm going to get you to start playing Overwatch again with me.
I will someday click on... I'll have my mouse is hovering over my Battle.net icon right now, but I have not clicked it in like 2 years.
I want you to take the plunge and click that button.
You know, one of the first videos we ever did was about Nex Machina.
I do recall that because that game is awesome. And I like the devs of that game, and they have a new game coming out.
Stormdivers.
So it's a weird name, but
it's a battle royale.
Of course it is.
It seems like in the vein of, have you seen stuff about Realms Royale, where it's a battle royale but you're like wizards?
Yeah.
And so you have like classes. This seems like another thing that's trying to incorporate classes into a battle royale, but it's like future stuff. So like there's like a ninja that can turn invisible kind of a thing, and like a heavy guy that has like a barricade kind of a thing, sort of like a Titan in Destiny. But yeah, it's like this weird, it seems like post-apocalypse. There's a jetpack guy. The graphics are fine, but it's sort of like, it looks like PUBG, but
more like sci-fi fantasy elements.
Sci-fi fantasy. There's like crazy storms going on. I assume the storms is like what brings you into the circle, but there's like a hover bike, there's vehicles. So it looks interesting.
I like the developer, so I would almost be interested in checking this out. Did they give like a release or like an alpha or beta type of a thing?
I don't think so. But it did remind me of something. There was a mod that I used to love. I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but maybe we should do a video on it. Did I ever talk to you about, I think it's just called Dystopia?
No, I don't remember.
It's a mod for Half-Life 2. So it's very old. I used to play it a lot in high school, but it still has some people who are playing it, and it's online only, like Overwatch, PvP, team-based, and it's like kind of like a cyberpunk setting, and it has classes similar to this, and there's like different game modes, but basically a lot of them are just like one team are the hackers, and they're trying to get to a core, and like affect like the corporation's core because it's like a dystopic future. But it's good. I think I'm gonna write a note to myself that we should make a video about it because it'd be easy for us to install and play a couple matches of it. I think you would really like it.
I'm down. I would try it. It sounds interesting to me, so.
Yeah, I'll find some stuff on it. Maybe we'll do a video on it this week.
So, next up, now that we've talked about Stormdivers very briefly, because I don't think we actually know that much about it. But
no, just that it exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good developer. I liked Nex Machina a lot. So I think, like, there's a whole lot of, like, indie battle royales coming out.
It's
and true. This one's at least, like, it's an indie dev team, I think, probably. But they're... like they've made a name for themselves, so it's one to keep an eye on, basically.
I agree.
Next up, GameSpot. I'm sure a lot of places did, but I saw some gameplay from a new shooter coming out called World War III, which is...
Yeah, tell me about this. I don't know anything about this.
So I remember seeing a trailer for it around E3, but I don't remember them talking about it at all. E3. I've never heard of the developer. It's called the developer is the Farm 51. I've never heard of it before. But basically, if you watch the gameplay of this, it looks almost exactly like Battlefield. Like, if you are a fan of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, like the modern Battlefield games, not like the World War II ones, you could watch this gameplay, and if I didn't tell you it was a different game, you would be like, oh, for sure, this is Battlefield. Is this a new Battlefield game, or maybe like a mod for Battlefield 3 or 4? But no, this is a different game. But I think the unique thing about it is that there seems to be, like, there are vehicles, but I don't think there's necessarily destructible environments. Maybe there are, but I didn't see a lot of that in the gameplay. But there does seem to be something akin to, like, Call of Duty's kill streak rewards, although I don't know if they're, like, what they're tied to, or if these are just, like, things that you can use periodically throughout, like on cooldown or something. But multiple times you'll see the guy that's playing the game, like, get out this sort of like it's almost like a drone, but it's like this rocket thing that you can sort of fly around and go crash it and blow somebody up. But the map, like the layout of everything, the, like, HUD elements, the map, the weapons themselves, like, pretty much everything looks like Battlefield, which is crazy to me. And so what I actually thought this reminded me the most of, because of the fact that it's kind of Battlefield with some, like, Call of Duty elements, I was thinking maybe this is like the spiritual successor to Medal of Honor. Do you remember that game? There was like two of them.
Yeah. They tried to make a modern version of it. But it didn't really work out for them.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about. So, like, back when, like, Call of Duty comes out every single year, right? Yeah. And that's an Activision thing. EA wanted to compete with that, but they do Battlefield every other year, so they needed to have, like, an every other year release to, like, fill the gap so that they can, sales, whatever. Mm-hmm. Basically, they wanted to have competition, so they had, like, DICE's B team, I guess, sort of revive the Medal of Honor franchise as this sort of, it's supposed to be kind of Call of Duty-esque version of Battlefield that's, like, smaller maps, and instead of kill streak rewards, you had score chain rewards where, like, just, like, helping your team out and doing different things would, like, get you these things that you could use, but you had the option between, like, an offensive or a defensive thing. So, like, the offensive thing would be, like, an airstrike of some sort, and then, or like the defensive thing would be UAV. I might not be remembering that exactly correctly, but it was something like that basically. And so the idea of it, I thought, was not that bad. The only thing is, it was like, it wasn't as good as Call of Duty, but it also wasn't as good as Battlefield, so it just didn't sell that well. Like, the graphics were kind of a little bit muddy. Like the lighting and texture work was not as good, and the sounds weren't quite as like loud and in your face as they are in like Battlefield. Like, Battlefield sounds are amazing, and so it was kind of a step down in pretty much every single way possible, and so that's why it didn't sell well, and it just didn't have the legs that like Battlefield and Call of Duty have. And then after like 2 or 3 releases, they obviously switched from Medal of Honor and Battlefield rotating every year. They started doing Battlefield and Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront. And this game, this World War III game, reminds me a lot of that, where it's like, it looks like Battlefield, it probably feels like Battlefield, but the graphics are not quite as sharp. It's a little bit hazy. It looks probably better than Medal of Honor did, but it doesn't look like DICE or like the Frostbite engine necessarily, but it looks close. So I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that.
I'm watching right now. Oh, he just got in a tank. Like, it's definitely very realistic, and it seems as though it's just a straight up deathmatch.
So yeah, from the outset, I would say similar to Medal of Honor, where like it's sort of an imitation of Battlefield. So like why is anybody going to play it over Battlefield? But this kind of leads into the next story I wanted to talk about, and the fact that Battlefield 5's pre-orders are down. Like, their numbers are weaker than expected, and so maybe people will play this because it's modern, it's not World War II, and it looks like it probably plays quite a bit like Battlefield, but it's just, it's not Battlefield. So I guess maybe people are going to be looking for something like this. And I do think the reason why Battlefield 5's pre-orders are down probably have a lot to do with the fact that it's coming out between Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption. So that's not helping it. But also there's been this whole controversy about, like this female character on the cover, and there's like female soldiers or whatever. And so you have a lot of people complaining about that because they are saying it's, World War II, it's not accurate or whatever. Which is not something I've ever particularly needed my online shooters to be. So I don't know why it's that big of an issue, but...
Zach, I have 2 things.
Okay.
Speaking of things being super accurate, didn't you think the graphics of The Division were super, super accurate and realistic?
Yes.
Something you what you were talking about an engine when you were talking about, I think Call of Duty or Battlefield, that was like a super good engine that looked super sharp.
Yeah, DICE's Frostbite engine.
Frostbite. The Snowdrop engine is what powered The Division and gave it its visual fidelity.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting because I was playing Mario Rabbids earlier today, and I noticed that is on the Snowdrop engine.
Oh, that makes sense. It's Ubisoft's. So
Isn't that crazy?
This is another thing that EA and Ubisoft are apparently doing. I wonder if the new Assassin's Creed is also on that Snowdrop engine or not. But
oh, interesting.
That would be a thing to look at, because EA is like, we have this really powerful engine that looks really, really good.
Yeah.
So they're making like all their various developers use it to build their games now. Like, BioWare is working with it for Anthem, and they used it for Dragon Age Inquisition and Andromeda, although you can throw that game out. But even Madden was made on the Frostbite engine this year. I think the first time.
That makes sense to me.
I don't think it really gave them any changes worth noting, but yeah, everybody's switching over at EA. to the Frostbite engine. And so it would make sense if Ubisoft was doing the same thing with the Snowdrop engine.
The Division 2 apparently is on the same engine. But anyway, my second thing, I just thought that was weird. The second thing, speaking of Battlefield 5, did we talk about how in that last trailer there was a little tease of the Battle Royale?
I don't know if we got around to it or not, but it was a very, very brief tease. You don't really see anything.
It seems as though, I mean, it was intent. It was like a lot going on, but the main takeaway I took from it was that the wall or whatever, you know, there's like the gas or like the storm that's slowly enclosing the circle. It appears to be just like fire and destruction of the level, because Battlefield can do something no other game can, which is their destructive environments. So like, you're going to see real, like, levolution as the circle gets smaller and smaller, which I think is a new, interesting element to a Battle Royale.
True, but you would want the destruction to be, like, sort of change the playable space and not necessarily the stuff that you can't really go to anymore.
Well, I mean, like, if you're in, like, so right now in PUBG, if you're, like, outside of the circle, you're going to be slowly dying, like maybe quickly, depending on how small the circle is. But if you were in like a 4-story building and like the edge of the circle hits that building and all of a sudden it is on fire and crumbling to the ground, like that's a very different play experience.
True. I guess it would be like, so the circle that's closing in sort of represents like apocalypse basically because of how crazy the war is.
That, I mean, that's just speculation on my part, but it seems as though, yeah, just like a ring of fire and destruction. Like, I don't know if you can survive outside of the circle.
Yeah. I bet you just get set on fire, and if you make it back in, you can heal up. But that's the game I'm more interested in, honestly. Like we've talked briefly about my impressions of the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 beta, and like obviously their battle royale mode has yet to come out.
But the beta for that is happening soon.
It will happen soon. I'm more interested to find out what the Battlefield Royale mode ends up being like.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. And also, I mean, Red Dead Redemption Royale is right around the corner as well, but there's nothing about that. I'm going to skip to the next thing real quick, and then we can come back. But in the same vein, PUBG, they have this, have you heard about this, like, Fix PUBG campaign?
No.
The developers of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds are basically like, hey, our game has problems with it, and we want to acknowledge that. So we're doing this big campaign. It's called Fix PUBG, and we're going to take a lot of community advice and sort of like there's all these things they're doing. They're going to like optimize the game, and something people have been asking for since day one is a training mode, because like if you want to get good at the game, it's difficult to do that because you sort of drop in and then like you're dead basically. So
I've been saying that.
This is a map. It's like a 2K by 2K map, and it's got everything. It's got a shooting range, it's got a driving range, it's got a range for practicing parachuting, it's got a range for practicing close quarters combat, a range for practicing like the throwables. It's basically what everyone wants. It's like a way to single player improve your skills as a player before dropping into the big game.
How is that going to work? Are there going to be like AI bots to shoot, or will other players drop in? I
think you can probably start a server and play with friends, but I assume it'll be like Overwatch's thing, sort of where there are like, you can have moving targets and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. The other thing would be like, we talked about them maybe adding like just a regular deathmatch type of a thing with like a smaller map. And that would be,
they had that sort of with the war mode.
Yeah, and then it would be like would be how they train people to get good at the like core mechanics of it.
But this can be, it says between 5 and 20 people can play together in the dedicated 2 square kilometer map. And it's good because like I have always wondered like what are the differences between the different like vertical grips and things like that. And with this, I will have a clean environment to test out and like really figure out how bullet drop works, because I feel like I'm still not good at zeroing. Yeah. And this will make, I'm definitely going to check this out because I think it'll be really fun to hone my skills and jump back in.
We should definitely do a video on it once it's available.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good idea. But circling back to what we skipped over, Zach, did you ever play Diablo 3?
I didn't, but I have the feeling that I will have another chance to play it pretty soon.
When I was in like middle school or like maybe elementary school, I feel like everybody was playing Diablo and it was like so good. And then Diablo 3 came out and I feel like everybody was playing it and they never stopped playing it. Like they had some controversies, but in general, it's just like a very well supported game and it's coming to Switch.
You know why? Because it's Blizzard.
You're right. That's that same theme and it's playable. I think it's like playable in any format. Like we can take off 2 Joy-Cons and like we can play co-op together.
That would be cool. I do kind of want to play this on Switch. I played, what are those Diablo knockoff games?
I don't know.
I can't remember the name of them.
What's what happens in the games?
I think they were on like console initially. It was supposed to be Diablo for consoles basically, and then eventually Diablo 3 came out on consoles.
That sounds familiar to me, but
what is the name of it? I gotta open my Steam library now. Torchlight.
Oh, Torchlight. Yeah. Didn't you have like you could get like a dog that would bring back your loot in that game? I don't know anything about Torchlight actually.
You could have a pet, I think, and I don't remember. It's been so long since I played Torchlight, but yeah, that was a fun game. I kind of liked the gameplay of it, and Diablo is like it's like the genre defining one, which is basically like Blizzard's whole thing. Like they take this thing that already existed and they make their own version of it, and it ends up being like
iconic.
Yeah.
This is Diablo 3 and every DLC that was ever released. This is like the complete Diablo 3 Ultimate Edition.
Are you a fan of the Diablo games?
Not super. I don't think I've ever played one, but I see the appeal of it for sure. Yeah. I've watched people play them, but yeah, I don't know. I've never really gotten into them. I mean, it's like a isometric version of Destiny in a lot of ways.
That's true.
Because it's all about that loot, you know?
Yeah. But I think the exciting thing to me about this announcement is that it's a Blizzard game coming out on a Nintendo console.
Good point.
So this makes it seem like maybe we'll get Overwatch on the Switch.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
That's the thing I want, even though like I'll probably still keep playing it on PC, but...
And they'd probably have cross-platform with PC.
I hope they don't do that. I mean,
because Fortnite has that.
They do, but like I don't think there's cross-platform Overwatch between like Xbox and PC.
Yet. We just gotta keep putting pressure on Sony, and eventually everything will be cross. Like it's gonna be because imagine a world. This is a world that's gonna happen probably where like there's gonna be events in games that are just like ongoing, like Destiny, where it's like PlayStation versus Xbox, and you can like log on and play against the other console. That's like what kids are gonna have, and they're gonna be like, "What do you mean PlayStation and Xbox couldn't talk to each other? It doesn't make any sense." That's my version of the future, at least.
I mean, that might happen one of these days. But here's a crazy thing that I was thinking about while you were saying all of that. Do you realize that Fortnite is like cross-platform between everything, including phone?
Isn't that crazy?
Now, is it cross-platform? When they say that, do they just mean like you can play your same account on all platforms? Or do they really mean like somebody on PC is playing against somebody on console who's playing against somebody on a phone?
That's a good question. I don't know. Definitely people on PC would have the advantage. I think that's how it is for Minecraft. If you have the like Windows 10 version of Minecraft or whatever, like PC and console and like iPad and whatever can all play on the same server.
I felt super old asking that.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know about your college experience right now, but like I mentioned I had a YouTube channel about video games in one of my classes, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you probably like do a bunch of Fortnite stuff, right?" And I was like, "No, I don't do any Fortnite stuff." But like that's like every teen's interpretation of like games. I mean, it's bigger than Minecraft was, I feel like.
Yeah, it's for sure bigger than Minecraft at this point because, yeah, if you talk about gaming at all, like that's the one thing people think about right now.
It's crazy.
It's the thing that people that don't play games or know pretty much anything about games, that's the one they all know about.
I mean, right now you see, if you go to Target, there's an entire aisle of Minecraft stuff, and I wonder how easy it would be. Like, I wonder if we're going to see Fortnite stuff. I guess I haven't been to a Target in a while, but how could they do that? Because you just, like, customize your... There's not characters in that, you know? And there's not NPCs.
Well, but they have marketing material that have just a custom character there, and it's clear enough that, oh, okay, that's Fortnite.
Yeah, but I wonder, like, when we're going to start to see, the really cool thing we haven't talked about, but Nerf is putting out Overwatch weapons. Like, they have a version of Reaper's shotguns and like Diva's pistol when she's out of her mech. I wonder if we'll start to see like replica guns from Fortnite, like via Nerf and stuff. I'm surprised we haven't already.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will jump on that eventually. Too much money to be made.
Speaking of money to be saved, this kind of ties in everything we've been talking about, but THQ Nordic, they made, or have the license for at least, the Darksiders games, and I have played both of these, and they are, what do we call them? Zelda War-likes? Zelda of War?
Zelda of War, yeah.
These are quintessential Zelda of War games, more so the first one, but it's they've got a very unique art style, and it's basically the story of the four horsemen. Each game is a horseman. The first one you play as War, and the second one is Death, I think. I don't remember. I've played both of them, but they're from old console generations, and they're both great. Like, you're running around, you're playing, you're collecting souls, you're buying upgrades to your weapons. It's everything you want it to be. It's like Zelda. It's got portal elements even. Like, you get a portal gun in the first one, and THQ Nordic is doing a big Steam sale right now, and you can get Dark Souls 1 and 2 for $5 for both of them until August 27th. And I feel like it's a crazy good deal because they're both really good games, and I feel like no one ever talks about them.
Yeah, they've probably just been like out for so long at this point. Although, didn't they do like a recent like remaster, re-release or whatever?
They did, yeah. There's like a HD remaster for consoles, but I think the reason they're doing this is because the third one is coming out, I think, fairly soon, and you play as Wrath, who is like a female horseman and has a whip. I'm trying to remember what War's main weapon was. I think it was just a big sword, and then Death's weapon was a scythe.
I think I played the first one, but I don't remember if I finished it.
The first one had a lot of backtracking, which I was not super into, but the second one I thought was really, really good. And I just like, you get so many cool, like, new mobility options and interesting weapons. I poured so much time into these games because they're just so, it's like, I think one thing like, Zelda is a great game, but one thing that is maybe not great at is, like, it doesn't have the most deep combat system, which is fine. It doesn't need it.
Yeah.
But this has a really deep, like, combo, like God of War almost, fighting system, but it's got the Zelda puzzles, it's got gadgets you're collecting that change your traversal options. Like, it's got it all, and it's got an interesting art style and some great voice acting all around. Just like the first and the second one are, I feel like, great games if you've got some time, you don't really have anything in your list of things you're going to play, and it's only $5 right now for two giant games.
Is this just on Steam? Is this also on console? I guess it couldn't be.
I don't know. I don't think it is. Yeah, I think it's only on PC.
Yeah, which, I mean, I agree. The art style is great for these, but yeah, I guess it sucks if you don't have, a good gaming PC, or I guess you probably don't need a.
Yeah, these came out forever ago. Like, I think this was released in 2015, so it's not going to take a lot to run these. Like, especially the first one, Darksiders War Mastered Edition. It can probably run on pretty much anything.
Yeah. This is definitely a deal that you should pick up on, especially if you're planning at some point to get like a new gaming PC or just a new PC in general. Like, you can just go ahead and buy these for like $5 and you'll just have like...
You'll have them forever.
You'll have them forever, but you'll also have them just like waiting for you for the next time you've, got nothing else going on.
So good. Definitely check them out.
Well, I want to talk about stuff we've been playing and watching.
Yes, I have not been doing any playing or watching lately because I have been getting into school. But it seems like you watch something, Zach.
I mean, it's not that I have not been getting into school. I don't want to make it seem like I'm slacking off, but I did take the time to watch a movie that I remember. I used to write a film blog, and so every week I would like run down all the latest releases. And I remember when this movie came out. It's called Your Name, which is a weird title for a movie, but it's a Japanese animated movie. And I remember seeing the trailer for it, and I was like, I really want to see this. But there's like no way to see it because it's definitely not coming out here. Mm-hmm. And then like a year later, you were like, oh, by the way, I saw this movie, Your Name. It's super good and you should watch it. And I was like, that was the movie that I wanted to see that one time. And then like a couple of years later, probably, I finally got around to watching it. And it was super good.
It's the number 1 anime movie ever in Japan.
Yeah, it did very, very well in Japan, and I think it did pretty well worldwide as well. But yeah, I don't remember what the numbers were, but
you know what is crazy about it? I assume you watched it on Amazon?
I watched it on Google Play, actually.
Oh, you did? So was it dubbed or subbed?
It was dubbed.
Okay, so... You know that song that plays during like montages?
Yeah.
It's in English, right?
Yes.
It's also it's by the same guy. I watched the subbed version because I just like downloaded it illegally back in the day. But that song is in Japanese, and so it's like a really good song. And so I was like, oh, I'll watch the trailer for the dubbed version to see if like what the voices sound like. And the same song happened, and it was the same singer, but it was in English, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, Radwimps is this like, I think they're a Japanese band, and they just like...
They've got to be.
Yeah, and they did all the music for this movie, and apparently they did all of it for the English version as well.
It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, it's a great movie. So you liked it a lot?
I did, yeah. It reminded me, I was texting you this, it reminded me kind of a Japanese author I like a lot, Haruki Murakami, because like the elements of his stories are always like... there's like some sort of mystery to be solved, like mysterious things are happening. Usually like someone's missing or somebody's looking for something, and there's like some sort of like almost supernatural thing that's happening, and it's always very engrossing. And I felt very similarly about this movie as well.
Did you ever see The Lake House with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves?
No, I did not, but I've heard people talking about it all the time. I don't know why. This movie comes up a lot.
It's got a similar plot to this.
Does it really?
You should watch it.
I mean... And
then it's based on a Korean movie that is also very similar to this that you should watch.
What's the name of that one?
1 second.
I mean, we should say, so this Your Name movie is about these teenagers, a boy and a girl, and they eventually, like, there's this comet that's like passing very close by the Earth, and you can kind of see it like streaking across the sky. And as all of that's happening or whatever, there's like some weird things start happening, and like when they fall asleep, these two teenagers, they will start like swapping bodies, and so they'll wake up and they have swapped bodies, and they just kind of like, well, that's a weird thing that's happened, and I don't know what to do about it. And
one of them lives in the country, and one of them lives in like downtown Tokyo.
Yeah, one of them's in Tokyo, one of them's in this really rural place. So they like meet and make friends with the other person's friends as that person, which is hard to explain, I guess. And because their personality is so different from the body that they're in, the people that they talk to, like, they're like, oh, you're really different today or whatever. And so, like, their relationships with those people start being affected by it. And it's all very interesting. And they eventually start trying to look for each other and figure out what's going on.
It's very good. The Korean one is called Il Mare. And it's not as good as The Lake House, and it's not as good as Your Name. I would say Your Name of these three movies is the best iteration.
Are they all body swap movies?
I won't say. But I was going to say something else about it. What was it? Oh, you know what? Another movie I think you would like that is in some ways similar. Have you ever heard of Summer Wars?
No.
That's something you should check out if you're looking for another movie to watch. I think in some ways, it's very, very similar to Your Name. It has nothing to do with body swapping, and it's not nearly as engrossing, but it's another beautifully animated anime movie.
I'm always up for another good anime movie or TV show.
Zach, did you know? This is my new Did You Know segment.
Oh, starting a new one, huh?
Did you know Your Name has been optioned to be turned into an American movie?
I did know that. I actually was looking stuff up about the movie after I watched it and saw that, is it J.J. Abrams?
Yeah.
Wants to, they bought the rights to it and he wants to make an American adaptation of it.
How would you adapt this? Because the girl can't work at a shrine in America.
Yeah, that's the question. How would it work?
What would she be doing in a small town?
Also, is it going to be animated or like live action?
No, it'll be live action. All white.
Are they just remaking The Lake House?
I mean, that would be great. No, so you should watch Lake House before you draw too many parallels, because there's only one thing that's similar to it. But, I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment. Like, what could the girl, like, what's their connection? Because their connection in the movie, I guess we shouldn't get too much into spoilers, because everybody should watch this, but, like, her working at that shrine is integral in some ways to their connection.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not really sure what everyone's roles would be. Like, his life wouldn't be that much different. Just like living in like New York City or something. Yeah, just some
big city, yeah.
Yeah. But hers would have to be very interesting, because she'd have to live in a rural town.
It would have to be rural, but it would also almost have to have like some sort of like Japanese cultural thing going on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I feel like I don't want a lot of these American adaptations of movies like this. Mm-hmm. One, because it's like a lot of filmmakers in Hollywood know for some of the classics, like, you don't remake them, right? Like you're nobody's remaking Citizen Kane or Casablanca. Like they don't.
Well, I mean,
they don't.
They did remake Ben-Hur.
True. But for like a lot of them, like, you don't remake them because they don't need remaking. They like hold up on their own. And this, like, sure, it's an anime thing, so maybe it, like, a Western audience is not like, it's sort of a niche thing here in America, being like super into anime.
Which is crazy. It's insane that like it's an entire, there's so many different kinds of anime, and like just walking around in the world, I feel like a majority of people are just like, oh yeah, I've never seen an anime, which is insane. Yeah. It's insane that like such a small percentage of people in America have seen like Akira.
I know. Well, but I will say the theater here in town had Hayao Miyazaki like marathon happening. Where
Miyazaki is like a special case, I feel like, because like Spirited Away won that Oscar.
True, but that I feel like those are the only ones that people know about. But they are aware of them, and so I don't know why it doesn't, I don't know, make them want to seek out more of it.
Like saying I don't like anime is like saying like, oh, I don't like comedy movies, or like something just like incredibly broad, you know, like basically saying like I don't like movies, which is, I guess some people say that, but like it's crazy.
It is crazy to me, and it's true. A lot of people don't realize like how many different types of anime there are. Like anime is just like basically an art style, and there's so many different genres.
Yeah.
It is basically like saying, well, I just don't like movies, or I don't like TV shows.
It's crazy. Like, my girlfriend was not super into anime, but I've been getting her into it. And we watched, oh man, what is it called? It was a new anime last fall or last spring, maybe. It was called like, hold on, A Place Further Than the Universe. It was this one season anime that was only 13 episodes long, but like it was just about these girls and they decided to go to Antarctica and there was some subplots, but like during the last episode, my girlfriend was just like weeping because it was like so emotionally impactful. And I don't think people realize, like, when they think about anime, they just think about, like, Dragon Ball Z or something, or just, like, people yelling and, like, emitting power nodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's, like, some very emotional... I mean, just like your name. Your name is, like, very emotionally impactful.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with these, like, superhumans, like, throwing balls of energy at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and another good one, if you're, like, trying to, like, feel out what anime is all about and like why you should be into it. Death Note is a pretty good one to like sort of get your feet wet with, because it's also not about, like, it is very Japanese, and that's why I think the Netflix American adaptation of that did not work out at all. But like the whole idea of like, what am I trying to think of? Ryuji? Is that his name? That's his name, right?
The what do they call the death gods? Shinigami. Shinigami,
yeah,
right.
The whole idea of that just is like completely foreign in America, and so the idea of trying to like use that to adapt it to like a Western version of that just kind of doesn't work just right out of the gate. But anyway, yeah, it's a good one because you have these two people who are like super intelligent, but one of them's like committing crimes basically, and the other one's like this highly intelligent detective. And so like they're both sort of it's like a battle of wits basically to see who can make the other one slip up. And so they're kind of battling each other and it gets really intense, but also like just there's so many like super artistic ways that the animators went about some of the elements of that show. Like one of the things that stood out to me that I remember specifically was there's this visual part where the bad guy basically who has the death note, and if he writes somebody's name in it and he like knows their face, like they die, right? And so he like figures out this one person, like what her name is, and so he's gonna like write her name in the death note and she's gonna die. And I think she even like figures it out, but it's like too late to stop it at that point. And so like you see her kind of walking away, and like the environment around her just sort of like changes and starts looking like a staircase that she's walking up to, like a noose basically. Like this is like visual stuff that you don't get in other mediums. And it's like super effective and super affecting. And that's why anime I think is great.
I agree. This is definitely watch the first half of Death Note.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a very specific point where it's okay to stop on Death Note, and you'll probably know once you get there. But I mean, it's only like 30 some episodes as well, so it's not like you don't have to commit to like a 9-season thing or something. But
speaking of, I mean, this has sort of become our anime episode, but a quick shout out to Psycho Pass, if you've never watched that. When you were talking about like battles of wits between like a villain and a hero, that's like I would say genuinely upsetting anime. Like there's some very, very upsetting stuff that happens in that anime. But it is very interesting and similar to that because it's just like about a very intelligent detective and like a very intelligent guy who's committing insane crimes. But it's in a world where everyone has like these, everyone has like defined by a color, like everyone's mental state is constantly being checked. And if it like gets like too dark a shade, then they get turned in. They basically have to go to prison. So like everyone is always happy all the time because they've like given themselves over to like the system. But anyway, we should wrap it up because we're just going to talk about anime for the next hour if we don't.
We're going to start like a separate anime podcast. But
Anime Corner.
That'd be great. That already exists, doesn't it? Probably.
I'm sure there's thousands of podcasts about anime.
Anyway, those are our recommendations. Check them out. Let us know what you thought. And follow us on Twitter.
What about this? Actually, hold on a second. What if next week we both come with like top 5 animes we've watched?
Oh gosh.
Would you be into that?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I like the idea of having like recommendations at the end of the show. We're gonna be like, hey, we're into this right now. You should check it out.
I agree with that.
And maybe like a top 5 thing could be a way of doing that sort of.
Excellent. Okay. Well, yeah, you should wrap the show. That's something I was thinking about.
Yeah, so follow us on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube and leave us your comments and feedback. And thanks for listening. Oh, also send us an email at starsidecafe@gmail.com. And we might even read it out on the podcast.
Yes. Any comments or questions you have, if you are an independent developer who wants coverage on their game, like hit us up and we'll talk about your game.
I would definitely do that. Any advice for next week?
Stay in school, kids, just like Zach and I. Sometimes
even go back to school, kids.
Definitely go back to school.
It's what all the cool kids are doing. All right, on that note, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.